talk about the speed differential, Calvin. You know, on a long racetrack like this, interesting to point out as you look at Diaz, just about a mile an hour faster than we saw the 99 car the last time by. On a longer racetrack, you expect to see a little bit larger differential between the cars. We go to a place like Lime Rock, you expect the differentials to be very, very small.
Absolutely. It's no different to a NASCAR team running on a super speedway versus the half mile like they're running this week, so the times are going to be very tight. So this sort of margin is rare. I mean, it just means that the car's set up right, but it also means, Dorsey, as you know, when you do hit on the setup right, it just develops into massive amount of lap time and the car's really hooked up.
And you see the stability of the car with Luis, and it's not twitching around. Its brake zones are very stable. Here's 12 coming in.
Yeah, Johnny Mullen comes in.
Done.
Klaus Graf has jumped up to third in that number 6 Porsche RS Spyder, 151.3. So about a half a second behind Guy Smith, but Johnny Cocker flying a 149.5. Very impressive for that young man.
It is, and what's surprising is to see David Brabham down in 5th. I mean, we expected the P1, should we call them kind of spec cars, the bigger engine cars, to have an advantage here, but certainly Cocker and Molem's car look good, but Brabham is some 8/10 off of Klaus Graf, and we expected them to be duking it out with similar lap times.
Impressive run by Kyle Marcelli in the number 89 LMP Challenge car. That's one of the Intersport cars. They run the LMP car and the LMPC. Marcelli doing a good job. But you talked about surprises. Andy Wallace in the 95, one of the Level 5 Motorsports entries, 5th. And that's a bit of a surprise, except for the problems that we've seen Level 5 have this weekend, and they have been numerous.
Yeah, 3 engine problems. So they're down to a crate motor. They actually had to go down to Chicago, I believe it was, and buy basically a crate motor off the shelf, make a few changes on it. So you wouldn't think it would have the same power, Dorsey, as one of these cars. I mean, they're pretty spec engines, but they are worked on and massaged just a little bit. So these guys are digging deep. They have the championship lead. Scott Tucker, remember, drives in both the 95 and the 55. There you see at the high speeds, dragging the back end of these prototype cars. The lower that you run them, the better the aerodynamics work. But when the car's hitting the deck that hard, you got to think that's going to cost you some speed too.
Yeah, you're scrubbing speed off, no question, when you're slamming on the chassis that hard.
Hey, Calvin, you talked about those engine failures that they're dealing with. Last night when they got those 2 crate motors from Chicago, brought them up here, tried to get them race ready. Their big question is they still don't know why they're blowing engines up, so they might go through those. And not only are they dealing with this weekend, but next weekend we've got to get up to Mosport, and once again they're going to have to make sure that they have backup motors. So not only do they have to deal with figuring out why they're blowing these motors up, but they have to make sure that they have something to race with and don't lose that top spot in the championship.
Well, I was going to say, Chris, Scott Tucker holding down the championship lead with 124 points, and Gunnar Jeanette just 11 points back. So right now the Level 5 guys have no breathing room, and the problem is they've got that issue that they can't really put their finger on.
Kyle Marcelli doing a great job. Currently holds down P2. He knocks half a second off. So he's now down to 159.4 versus Diaz 158.2. This is a different chassis to the one that the Intersport team have been using all year. This is chassis number 16 that Kyle Marcelli brought along with him, and they had a lot of electrical problems with the chassis number 1 that they had been campaigning throughout the course of this season. And the car just seems to work. Spoke to Martin Dixon, who's kind of the program manager over there at Intersport. He said the car is working, car's doing a tremendous job. We've got Chapman Dakota who's going to be joining him for the remainder of the season. The key is going to be getting Chapman a lot of laps in this car this weekend to get him back up to speed. He hasn't seen much race action in the last year or so.
Down on straightaway speed right there. You see a 162.99. Couple mile per hour slower than what we saw earlier on.
Isn't it funny how cars have personalities? They say that one just had more electrical gremlins, but we've all had that. 2 cars that are supposed to be identical, and one of them just is evil, just has a bad personality, and the other one can be quite nice.
And you know, when you're having these engine failures, 3 on one weekend, you really need to stop everything and take it apart and look at every single bit and analyze, is it breaking the same part every time, or is this sporadic different things? I mean, these cars, by their spec nature, shouldn't be using engines up.
Can Kyle Marcelli dig deeper? He's got over a second to find, but can he get in that 58-second bracket? That would certainly be an achievement. This will be his final lap as time is running out.
Diaz still on pole at 58.2. This would be his 5th ALMS class pole. He doesn't have one in LMPC. It would be his first one there if he can hold on to it. But Kyle Marcelli wants to have something to say about that. The session is over. The flag is out. So Marcelli, this is the run. Can he get it done? Got a long way to go yet.
Yeah.
1.2 seconds here, Cal.
That's a huge way to go.
It is, but they'll just keep working on it. They'll be very happy with the position he's got already. It looks like he'll definitely hold on to the front row spot here. Can he get any closer to Diaz?
59.4 to no. 59.9 that time by. So Kyle Marcelli slots into second. It's Diaz on the pole right now in LMPC. And for the 8 team, Drayson Racing, you know, Johnny Cocker said after Mid-Ohio, we are extremely pleased. We are moving in the right direction. I would say they should be pleased. 2 poles in a row, Jamie.